Okay, we're good. Good morning. We're going to go ahead and start the meeting of the IAC. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for coming. If you haven't grabbed coffee or some wonderful treats over there, please feel free to get up and get some, and we'll still continue the meeting. Lisa, could we please have roll call?
Sorry, we're too far removed. Okay. Chair North.
Present.
Vice Chair McCormick.
Present.
Councilmember Esquaga. Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Lakshan.
Present.
Councilmember Madole.
Present.
Councilmember Nanini.
Present.
Councilmember Reed.
Present.
Councilmember Thurman.
Present.
And Julia Bledsoe from Classified Council seems to be absent. Ann Flesher from Faculty Senate.
Present.
Alexandra Patry.
Present.
And Julie Muley.
Present.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the phone? Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the public comment, and this must be read in the meeting. Public comment will be taken during this agenda item. No action may be taken on any matter raised under this item until the matter is included on an agenda as an item of which action may be taken. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes per person. Persons making comments will be asked to begin by stating their name for the record and to spell their last name. The council chair may elect to allow additional public comment on a specific agenda item when that agenda item is being considered. Is there anyone here today that would like to make public comment during this session? There being none, we will move on to the next agenda item. Next agenda item is approval of the minutes for November 15th, 2019. You all received these minutes prior to the meeting, and hopefully everyone was able to review them. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve, Nancy McCormick.
Second, Joe Nanini.
I have a first and a second. Are there any comments? If not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of approval of the minutes of November 14th, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? There being none, the minutes motion carries. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action. Actually, motion to accept the revised TMCC IAC meeting schedule for 2020. Remember, in our last meeting we talked about the length of our current meetings and adding an additional date, September 18th, in an attempt to reduce the length of the existing meetings and provide more continuity and connection to the topics and work of the IAC. I'd like to call for a motion.
Move to approve, Nancy McCormick.
We have a first. Do I have a second?
Second, Mindy Lakshan.
Did you get that? Okay. Thank you. We have a first and second on the floor. Any discussion? There being none, I'll call for the vote. Please signify if in agreement by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? There being none, the motion carries. Thank you. Now, the time that we all look forward to is our President Hilgersom's update. So good.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to welcome you to the beautiful new Sports and Fitness Center. I think that's what we agreed to here at TMCC. And you are sitting in the ARB basketball and gymnasium, which will be sort of made very, very official in March. And you'll all be invited to the grand opening in March. And if I'm recalling correctly, it's March 13th. So this is a beautiful facility. It was inspired by one group of student government leaders in particular, and the torch was carried by the second group of student government leaders the year after, followed by a third group of student leaders after that who really helped finish it off and bring it to fruition. And thanks to Alexandra Patry, what we're seeing now is just a very fast usage of this facility, like astronomical. So even though students don't pay extra to use this facility, we do make them sign in and have a membership, and mostly for insurance and liability reasons. And what I recall, the last time I checked with this a few days ago, we had over 400 students already signed up. So this place is hopping, and it's only going to go up from here. Please speak to Tina Ruff if you're interested in your own community membership at a very good cost to you. But it really is a wonderful facility. Tina would be happy to give a tour after this meeting. It's just one floor, so it doesn't take very long. But it really is just a dream come true for the students. And this was all part of the same package with the soccer field and the desire to have competitive sports. And as you know, we launched our first inaugural men's and women's soccer team in the fall. And they had a very good season, and we look forward to next season. It was very exciting. So again, welcome on that. I have two primary updates that I wanted to give you. The first one is relatively brief, and the second one will take a few minutes. And that is that the foundation has been in the process of interviewing professional consultants to help us with what's called a feasibility study for fundraising for a capital project. And Mindy, I'm not sure if it's too early to announce the results, because the last I talked to Gretchen, I think the contract's not quite done yet, so I'll just hold off on that. But we met with several excellent consultants. I think the one that will get the job is going to do an amazing job for us, and I really look forward to it. The architects have finalized what I consider a pretty detailed pre-design. And after we are done with all of the final selection of the feasibility group, we will bring that to you so you can get another look at it. But they really took their time talking with building occupants, stakeholders in our community, and the end product is truly, truly marvelous. So more on that later. But I did want to give you the update on behalf of the foundation related to how we will move forward, and you'll hear more about that. The next thing that I wanted to speak with you about, and you have a handout that has 3 slides per page, so if you could kind of follow along with me on that. So this is in preparation for the March NSHE Board of Regents meeting, and every university and college and DRI, we were asked to submit to NSHE as concisely as possible the legislative priorities that are unique to our institution. Those priorities will be folded into a presentation, and the Board of Regents will listen to that and look at that. And from that, they will determine the legislative priorities from NSHE that will be the platform for the next legislative session, which begins in 2021? Correct, okay. And so I just wanted to share that with you, because it might help you think about ways in which you can be helpful in your role as Institution Advisory Council. So one of the things that we've got in the hopper is a capital project in partnership with DRI. And that is, and if you look at the first slide, or actually slide 2, the capital project's history is that 2001 was the last new construction funded by the state at TMCC. So we're looking at about 20 years. And that was our student center for $11 million, which would be equivalent to about $16 million today. And as you can see, back then we had about 4,891 full-time equivalent students. Now we have 6,045 full-time equivalent students. And just as just so you know, the majority of our students, even though this number is shrinking, which is a good thing to shrink, but many of our students are part-time. So they are balancing families, jobs. So when I say 6,045 full-time equivalent, that translates into approximately 12,000 head count, just kind of at the 4 campus locations. So now if you flip the page, oh wait, you don't have a page. What we are requesting of the NSHE Board of Regents is to make as a top priority for the system $6 million for planning and preparation for a shared science and science research building in partnership with DRI. The $6 million would include planning, site preparation, and redundant fiber, so beefing up the IT infrastructure. And that alone is $744,000 to actually do that infrastructure and get it done. The building would be about 30,000 square feet, $25 million. It would include chemistry labs, undergraduate research labs, classrooms, faculty offices. DRI really wants a large auditorium to invite K-12 in and do all kinds of other things related to science presentations. So that is not a theater, that is a lecture auditorium. And then DRI engineering research labs. It is a very exciting project. I've enjoyed working with, I started this work with Dr. Kristen Averett and now Dr. Kamud Arikana. I think I said that wrong, but he's been wonderful as well. So that is our one capital request in addition to a system request for deferred maintenance. And if you flip, we've got $6.6 million worth of deferred maintenance that we would like to do. And so, we're hopeful that since there's no large building that we know of coming from the universities or the community college, the system strategy, which I think is a good strategy, is to ask for more for deferred maintenance for all the institutions in NC. Student Success Initiative, when we move, so really the way I look at legislative initiatives, we really have capital and operations, and they really are quite separate. That to try to mingle them, the logic of that breaks down very quickly when you look at how funding drives out, because capital projects, in effect, are one-time funding, which is very different than salaries. Salaries create a compounding effect as time goes on, and so it's a different bucket. So under student success initiatives, our first priority continues to be compensation. Attract and retain highly qualified academic and administrative faculty. In addition, there are NCHE initiatives, which we think are really good, but it would be so much easier to implement if we had funding for them. $1.9 million for mandatory advising, $1.8 million for the co-requisite initiative, which I am very proud and happy to report is going extremely well on our campus. The math faculty, the English faculty have really rolled up their sleeves, and they are really doing their part to embrace that initiative, which is terrific. And then dual enrollment, and I'll speak about that in a minute. We are expanding our dual enrollment programs in high schools very quickly. I mean, the word I would use is exponential. It's more than doubled since 2016. So it would be nice to have some money just to help coordinate that with our high schools. And then dual enrollment tuition. TMCC is suggesting to the NC Board of Regents that we develop a comprehensive strategy with the governor and legislator for tuition assistance to support high school and two-year college dual enrollment programs. There are several states that have much larger dual enrollment programs. Some of them have really good models. Some of them have models that fall short, but all of them have been doing this for many, many years, 20 years or more, and we are just now getting started in the state of Nevada. I believe that this is one of the reasons why our level of bachelor degree attainment is lower than many states. It's because we're not accelerating options at the high school level at the same pace that other states have done for the past 20 years. So I think there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm. Caleb might even, where did Caleb Cage go? Oh, so he might be speaking a little bit about this. I learned of an NC CTE dual enrollment strategy that I think is going to be very good and fits right in with this. And hopefully Caleb will talk about that. And if not, I'll get it at the next meeting. So we also have enhancement requests. This is kind of to maintain some of the monies that we've received to enhance capacity in areas that are high demand or that we just, we can't fund it without extra money. We're requesting $4 million annually. And then finally, our getting ahead, actually, that's not quite final. We received a grant from the governor on getting ahead corrections programs, and we want to maintain those. So that would cost $168,000 annually. And then lastly, the new enhancements. And so I should say the old enhancements are really enhancements that those monies are to sustain what we're already doing. So if we don't sustain those dollars, it's going to be difficult to maintain the level of capacity that we have achieved as a result of the dollars that we got in this biennium. Does that make sense? And the new enhancements, we really need to increase the factor for weighted student credit hours in health careers. This one is becoming really vital to maintain health career programs at two-year colleges and TMCC in the state of Nevada. And finally, a nice to have would be state support for summer workforce courses. It's not, again, it's a nice to have. My professional opinion is that an increased weight for health professions is no longer a nice to have, it is a have to have. So that concludes really our list, and if you have any questions, a dean or a VP or me, we will be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Dr. Hilgerson. Questions?
Nancy
sorry.
McCormick, you done?
Yeah, go ahead.
I see on the enhancement request the note about respond to workforce needs and the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center training facility. So it's not something we've discussed in this forum before, and I'm just curious and interested in what that is looking like or what that's all about.
Thank you. I apologize. I started to rush because I looked at my time clock and realized I was going a bit over. But we are requesting $500,000 to help with startup operational costs for a training facility out in the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center. I've been involved in numerous conversations with a couple of different entities, and they're both aware that I'm in conversation with both of them, as well as many from the tech, the Edison team, Vice President Marie Mergelot, Dean Barbara Walden, and there's a lot of energy and need for a training center out at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Park. I think the state needs to have some skin in the game, and we're going to need help with startup operational cost. Once we begin getting weighted student credit hours completed, and there's kind of a 2 to 3 year delay before we see those funds, unless there's grants, right? Then we probably won't need to rely on the state for those startup costs. The $500,000 is not for capital startup, it really is for startup operational costs.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yes.
I just had a quick question.
Could you state your name, please?
Yes, Alexandra Patrice, Student Government Association President. How much more would the $25 million building cost students per credit? Would you happen to know?
For the shared DRI?
Yes.
Nothing.
Nothing?
Yeah, the goal is to have the state of Nevada pick up the tab. Yeah. Thank you for asking that question.
Any other questions? I have one. Are we looking also to the businesses out in that area in Trek to also provide funding for this initiative?
Yes, either funding or in-kind support.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. If you have questions in the future after you leave the meeting, I'm sure that Dr. Helgerson will be happy to answer them for you. Okay, where are we? All right, our next item on the agenda is updates, and I think Assistant Vice Chancellor Caleb Cage is going to be giving us an update as Nate is not available.
Thank you, Chair North, and for the opportunity to be here. My name is Caleb Cage, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Community Colleges and Workforce Development. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today, Chair and President Hilkerson and members of the committee here, or council rather. I'm going to give a very brief overview of three initiatives or projects that are underway right now, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but mostly I'm going to just focus on hitting the high points here as we go forward today. As Chair North commented, Nate McKinnon, who I report to, is out of state right now and asked me to fill in with him if there are any questions that are in his purview and that I don't necessarily know. I'm happy to take those back to him following this meeting. Talk about three updates today, and again, I'll try to keep my remarks very brief. So the first is about an initiative that has been underway previously and is starting back up, and that is a joint meeting of the IAC chairs. This has been scheduled. The intent of these meetings is to close any gaps that may exist between the institutional advisory councils throughout the state for the community colleges among themselves, as well as among the Board of Regents and the Community College Committee of the Board of Regents as well. This has been done in the past, but it has been scheduled again this year. The meeting is going to take place in two parts. The first being a meeting among the among the chairs, and then the second being with the Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor for community colleges, the chairs, and then members of the Board of Regents, as well as the Community Colleges Committee. So this is on the way. I know there's been some rescheduling going on with that, but this is a step forward in making sure we're collaborating across the state, sharing best practices, and really focusing on how we can support from the system level as much as possible. The second, President Hilgerson mentioned the dual enrollment focus in the legislative and budgetary request packet that you saw earlier. Probably not going to get into that in the detail you would need right now, but happy to follow up. This is from Nate's perspective. The dual enrollment is a primary focus for the biennial budget as it's in development right now, with a particular focus on career and technical education. This has been a priority across state government. We're seeing it at the system as well as within the governor's administration as well. Interesting or of note is the fact that the state of Nevada was recently selected by the National Governors Association for a policy academy project that they call College in High School Initiative. And so 6 states were chosen. Nevada was one of them. System of Higher Education, Nate in particular, is working with 4 or 5 other state agencies in order to make sure Nevada is represented, but more important, to make sure Nevada benefits from best practices around the country regarding dual enrollment and CTE here in the state. And that's really all I'm prepared to go into for there, but I'm happy to follow up, President Hilgerson. The final item is an update on what we have referred to as the Nevada System of Higher Education Workforce Development Education Initiative. And as bureaucratic as that sounds, it really is action-oriented. The idea is to focus on, of the 10+1 in-demand occupations in the state of Nevada, to focus on 3 that we can have that are most critical, and areas that are most critical and have the most opportunity for change right now. And those areas are educators, the educator workforce in the state, nursing and healthcare in the state, and what we're referring to as emerging. Really asking the question, what in the next decade is technology and other evolutions how are these going to change education, and how are they going to change workforce development, and how are they going to change work, and how do we prepare for that? This is intended to facilitate and coordinate all of the great work that's happening at the institutions right now across the state, so that we can really make improvements in those areas. It's got a specific timeline of really the first 6 months of 2020, so we're well into that timeline already, and specific deliverables with oversight from the Board of Regents, Council of Presidents, and others. So Chair North and President Hilgerson, that concludes my remarks. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for Assistant Vice Chancellor? Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Last meeting we talked about having more productive meetings and added value, and in this discussion we talked about asking the representative members of the council to provide written updates, and they were attached in your agenda package. And this is an opportunity for the council members to ask any questions, any follow-up questions, or inquire about specific topics which each constituency group provided. What I hope that everyone took the time to read the reports that were presented, and I found some very valuable information as always. And so what I'm going to do is just ask each member of their areas to just be present, and then we will open it up for questions for that particular area. And I'd like to start with our Faculty Senate Chair, Ann Flesher. And do you have any questions for her regarding her her presentation, which was in your packet? I have a couple. Has there been an increase? The first thing we talked about in your Faculty Senate was about the anti-bullying policy. Mm-hmm. And I just wondered, because this is such it's a topic nationwide, and have you seen, or has there been an increase on campus of this behavior?
That's not necessarily what prompted this. This came out of discussions actually about a year ago now, that what we had within our policies didn't necessarily cover the aspects of what bullying might be on campus, either with students or with faculty. So it really just meant as a way to strengthen a little bit and cover more areas that weren't there before. And it wasn't necessarily because we've seen an increase. It was just a realization that what was in the TMCC policies wasn't in-depth enough and strong enough. Uh-huh. So this conversation actually started, about a year ago, and it was drafted in the fall, and then it's gone through its process. And it will be in the TMCC policies,
Thank you. I have one other question on the second item about belonging and culture ad hoc task force. Can you kind of share a little bit about how this is going to be implemented, and are there students represented on this task force?
That's a good question. I wish Yvonne was here, Karen Wickender, who's English and is chairing the committee. I'm not exactly sure of the composition of the committee. There probably are some students on it. Mm-hmm. The idea was, in light of a couple events, and Dr. Hilgerson, you might be able to remember the dates of the stickering events. So this did come out of a need. We felt like there was a need to have a task force to brainstorm ways to deter this on campus. What was the date?
Well,
of that?
and the other thing that happened too is that I was invited to a national meeting of a relatively small group. I think there were about a dozen presidents, and at the AACC in Washington, D.C., and we talked for the day about conducting climate surveys, but the climate surveys would focus on belonging and making sure students feel welcome. And so I asked the diversity committee if they wanted to plan and get ready for a survey like this. And I also noted that the phrase belonging is becoming kind of the national word of choice at colleges and universities, and they got really excited about it. So this is also part of that effort, to try to get some more data on how people feel and then take better actions when we learn about hate speech on campus, or, does that help, Ann? Is that what?
Yeah. And as I recall, I can't remember when the event was, that Red Mountain had the stickers, and there were stickers all over campus at various places, so very hateful stickers. And so it almost started out, I remember when we talked about it as like an anti-hate committee, and we just thought that was too negative.
Right.
And then bringing in some of what you just said, it sort of turned into this. And we let the committee, when it's a task force, sort of determine their own charge based off of incidences or what they want to develop in the end. So again, it's just a task force, and should hopefully wrap up with recommendations at the end of the spring semester to give TMCC what tools we want to use as a campus to deter kind of hateful behavior.
Right. Does that help?
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions regarding this area? I found it very interesting. And also, you have some business leaders on the IAC that also deal with this in corporate environment. And we also have policies and procedures. So if you have any questions or want to reach out, we're always available to assist. I'd be interested to seeing your final draft. I think the committee would be interested in reviewing that because it is important, and thank you for the work.
Yeah, what I can do too is next meeting, all that'll have gone through and have been more.
Maybe you could put
I'll
it in your
share it,
report.
exactly. Yeah,
Right,
we'll share it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Our next area is classified counsel, and Julia Bledsoe is our president. And is she here today?
She's right there.
Oh, there she is. Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions for Julia and her presentation? I just want to say that you've been doing a lot of great work.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. There being none, no questions. We will go on to the Student Government Association. Alexandra Petrie, the president, and her report is here. Does anyone have any questions for Alexandra? Gosh, I have two. I would like to congratulate you, first of all, on being a presenter at the Open Educational Resource Professional Development Workshop, and that is a mouthful. But what I'd like to know is, what was your topic focus for that presentation?
So what we talked about was how much students would save if you implemented open educational resources. A lot of faculty showed up for that, and kind of just influencing them that this is something that is a big change, but also a really great change for students. And at the end of this spring, there will be an estimated of $400,000 in savings just for students alone due to open educational resources being implemented in maybe 15 teachers' classes, which isn't even a lot. And so it could be a lot bigger of a number. And so I was there as a student voice to represent all students that this is something that students want.
Thank you very much. How many people were in attendance?
I believe there was maybe 15 people. They
Thank
were
you.
all faculty.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your work. I love to hear what students are doing. Any other questions for the president of our student council?
Can I don't have a question. I just have a compliment. Number one, the OER topic is on the list of TMCC priorities, and I think it's really great that even student government are working on TMCC priorities, whether they realized it or not. It's really cool. Second thing I want to say is thank you for speaking close to the mic, Alexander. You're modeling excellent behavior in this big room. And for the rest of us, speak close to the mic, closer than usual because of the way the sound is carrying today. But great job.
Thank you. The next item on the discussion is the presentation and discussion. Last meeting, we asked President Hilgersum to review TMCC's priorities and provide a summary of what they are doing to promote the strategic initiatives. It's included in the packet, and also to really address what are the main initiatives that she is directed to by NNCHE and through the college to put forward. So I will ask President Hilgersum to address this issue.
Okay, well, so thank you very much. And we have a nice chunk of time allocated to this, so I might at some point call up a vice president or two or representative in case you have questions about the reports that were submitted. But first, I want to start by just sharing a little bit about how we have learned to set priorities at TMCC. And partly because my style is a little bit all over the place. And a couple of years ago, the evaluation committee for the president, after they did extensive interviews and looked at survey data, one of the pieces of advice that they gave to me, which was for me the most valuable takeaway ever, was, Karin, you might want to try to figure out a more systemic way to set priorities. So we devoted the immediate summer after that was done, which would have been in, I think, the summer of 18, to really developing with mostly leadership. And when I say leadership, I mean department chairs, directors, deans, vice presidents, and the president. Okay, so and student government leaders. Although I think we did a lot of this in the summer when we did it a couple of years ago. But that culminated into a list of priorities, and then that list was revised a bit, but not so much, last summer, in the summer of 19. And so what you have before you, this is a one-page version of the TMCC priorities, okay? And so now when you look at the actual work that's going into some of these priorities, it is volumes of work, whether you're measuring action steps that are new or strategies that are new that are being implemented, budget documents that are necessary to request money to do some of the work, and then the actual implementation of the work. So this is really an incredibly brief synopsis of what our priorities were. For this meeting today, we asked the vice presidents to kind of share in a very brief way how they have worked toward priority number 1 and priority number 2. And priority number 1 relates to dual enrollment. And priority number 2 is engaging students through healthy mind, healthy body, healthy environment. Now that said, we have emphasized all of these priorities. When I look at the ones that I feel like we've made a lot of progress on, I think we've made really great progress on diversity and organizational culture. So I don't want to de-emphasize those today. And I think the work that Ann just spoke to a couple of minutes ago is a great example of that. And there's a lot of work going on in Yvonne Allen's shop through the DISCO. And and faculty are very concerned about what appears to be some kind of a national white supremacy movement that has even reared its ugly head at TMCC, okay? And trying to figure out how do we deal with that, but also maintain free speech, because it's important. We want to maintain free speech, right? So, but what you have in your packet are really emphasis related to dual enrollment and then engaging students through healthy mind, healthy body, healthy environment. But really all of these priorities are very important. And so now, I think the first one in your packet, was the finance and administrative services, assuming my packet matches your packet. And my question for you is, do you have any questions about this report? And if so, I will ask Jim New to, step to the podium and respond.
Any questions on this report? I don't know if it's a question or maybe a question, but I see dual enrollment here, and I also see it as a NINCHE focus, and I hear as a high priority or focus for the 2021 session. Mm-hmm. So if I would just like to kind of earmark that from an IAC perspective, because the goal is to really look at how this committee can help advance and bring community involvement and engagement and make sure that this is important to the community and how our community is being served through these initiatives as well. So I guess I'm just going to ask the committee to kind of earmark this and get your thoughts, because we are going to be talking about these initiatives in the next area. So this is very important. Dual enrollment has always been very critical to our community and to our businesses that we serve. And so do you have any questions for Dean New?
And let me state that under dual enrollment, it really does take a village, because the budget office helps figure out where the money's coming from, and oftentimes with Washoe County School District, right? We figure that out together. The actual recruiting effort, meaning recruiting high school principals to work with us to do dual enrollment, is housed in the Vice President of Student Services office. And Estella could not be here today, and she feels bad about that, but she did have a family situation that requires her absence. But I believe we have Natalie here in case you have questions about the work that's being done from the Student Services side. And then the Vice President of Academic Affairs, Dr. Marie Mergelo, she actually helps provide the faculty who are deployed out to high schools to do the work. So dual enrollment really is a college-wide effort, and I am very proud of the team's work on this because, again, the growth has been amazing. And if you notice on the student service side, Jumpstart enrollment, fall 2019, up 93% in new high school students. And part of that, I should add, is a partnership with Nevada State High School, which lives outside of Washoe County School District. But they really liked how we were teaching a particular online course, and that led to a nice enrollment bump. But it's been growing every year, almost doubling growth every year. So anyway.
Dr. Lokshin,
Yes.
go right ahead. Your mic. There you go.
Okay. What percent of the students with dual enrollment are on higher education campuses versus on their high school campuses versus online?
So we'll bring up Dr. Natalie Brown, who will be speaking as a representative of Vice President of the Student Services area.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
So the question was, what percentage of dual enrollments are occurring at high school campuses compared with college campuses
Versus online.
versus online?
All right. Hello, everybody. Natalie Brown for Student Services and Diversity. So as far as dual enrollment, we have a lot of our dual enrollment classes we consider as cohort classes, so they are running as full classes on the high school campuses. More and more we're getting students that are homeschooled. We have some students that come up to TMCC for one-on-one classes, particularly those homeschool students. Now the exact percentage, we can follow up after the meeting. I can get you those exact dates, the exact percentages, where the students are coming from, and the high schools. But most of the students are run through cohorts, so particularly at the high schools, through groups, and that's the number that's really growing at a real steady rate.
Dr. Brown, if you could possibly, for our next meeting, if you could provide that data for us, that would be very, very useful.
Of course.
Thank you so much. I was just going to call on you.
Thank
That's
you,
too
Nancy
funny.
McCormick. You done. So it's just a curiosity. I'm wondering about dual credit programs with private schools that are not part of the Washoe County School District, and I just have never heard whether that's happening or an option or the backstory on that.
Yeah, we do have some partnerships with some private schools in the area. Some of them are we have also with the charter schools as well as the private schools. So it is an area we're really looking at all opportunities to expand partnerships, throughout Washoe County. So, anywhere that we can see to expand our dual enrollment, those are areas that we're looking at.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Brown?
Do you happen to, Joe Nannini, sorry, do you happen to know which private schools you're working with?
I don't off the top of my head, but I can get you the list.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Dr. Lansky.
Is it working now?
There you go.
One other question. The reason I was asking is because transportation is usually a major issue, and it's an issue whether you're in charter schools, in the public schools, or homeschooled. And if you're not having to transport students to the campus, then it's also a question if it's online or in their schools, which would also raise different costs. And in addition, my other question was, what percent are CTE versus other academic fields?
So our dual enrollment population is separated from our CTE classes. So those, I mean, when we're looking at the CTE college credit groups, those are going to be separated from what we consider as our dual enrollment cohort classes. So we can get you numbers on both, so you can see what's going through both pipelines.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question, Ann Flesher. So I would like to see in this type of program that I understand a program like this, and I think it's important maybe for this body to understand that really my understanding is that it does boost FTE because we get those numbers. But what is the long-range goal of something like this? Students, at least from, because I'm also vice chair of the math department, so what we see are students in the requests for our Jumpstart dual enrollment is pre-calculus and calculus 3. My guess is students that are taking those classes are not coming to TMCC. So of this percentage, fall 2019, 93% of new high school students. Of that percent, what came from our dual enrollment programs? And then I think it's kind of important then to understand, is it just to boost FTE, or are we trying to also, is there evidence to show that the students who go through a dual enrollment cohort actually enroll and then graduate from TMCC? Can we track that?
Yes, we actually have that data also, and so we can provide that from the school district. And then one of the other MOUs that we are working on right now is a pilot group with Sparks High School, where we're piloting a Math 9596. So not necessarily going with the 126, 127 type of a math program, but really trying to get them prepared for the college level when they're entering TMCC. So that's going to be a pilot program we're working on for this coming fall.
And then, so that's a cohort of students that then might be coming into our institution afterwards. Because I imagine going out and teaching Calculus 3 in the high schools for them, they're on their way to those students are on their way to something else.
Exactly.
And it is a struggle from a department perspective to ask our faculty to then go out to the high schools to teach. That's quite a struggle. The schedules, just as much you talk about transportation for students, our full-time faculty or part-time faculty, whoever is qualified, we have to schedule them around, and they have to go through some extra hoops to then teach in the high schools. And actually, some are not well received. Some of the stories I hear back from faculty are not always well received, that community college faculty member is coming in to teach their classes to their students. So that's something that has to be navigated before we just go out and say, hey, we're going to boost FTE, and this is such a great thing. That I think we need to also consider the faculty in those high schools that might have wanted to teach those classes as well.
Oh, definitely. And it's actually something we're looking at is, what are the qualifications for dual enrollment faculty teaching high school classes across NSHE? So what are some of the other schools doing? What are the qualifications? And making sure that we're in line with that as well.
So I'd like to add to that, because I think there is, and I'll just put it in my perspective. The goal, and I think it's actually an NSHE goal to a great extent now, is to raise the level of educational attainment in the state of Nevada. A secondary goal, a nice to have, is that some of those students will actually attend TMCC. And then, but the third goal is even if they don't attend TMCC, we provided them a course that will transfer, whether they at that point decide to go to UNR or another university in the state of Nevada or even out of state, but I prefer that they stay in state. But that in doing so, we have saved their families money, and we have built confidence in the students that they can actually do college work. And so the fact that we do generate the weighted student credit hours is awesome, and it really helped our enrollment. Good morning, Regent Del Carlo. Yeah, so that is really fantastic. But I think that the primary goal is really to raise the level of educational attainment in the state of Nevada. TMCC High School, an embedded dual enrollment program, is such a wonderful example because I think last year approximately 50 to 55 students finished their AA degrees before they finished their high school diploma. They went to many colleges, but many of them went to the University of Nevada, Reno as juniors. And just think how much money that saved their families. And from a state policy perspective, the cost to the state was about half for those credits. So, and again, other states have been doing this for many, many years. I do appreciate the faculty concern from the standpoint of having enough faculty to be deployed at the high school. I will add that there were several positions in math and English that as a condition of employment back in 2016, on the job description, it was told to those candidates that, you might be asked to teach at a high school. However, that is not sustainable. We're going to need a different model. Other states have best practices that we will be looking to, and I know Dr. Marie is working on some of those ideas now. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'd just like to add something. This is Joe Nannini. I would just like to say that I can't express my support enough for a program like this coming from an educator's perspective. And working in the thick of education workforce development, I think that reaching out as a community college to high school students who tend to either top out of the high school curriculum or need those kind of services that are brought in, I think that this program fits the mission of a community college to a T.
Thank you. Before we go any further, I would like to welcome Regent Del Carlo, and for the record, make sure that she is listed as in attendance.
I'm sorry. I thought it was at 10.
No need to be sorry. We're just very grateful that you're here. So thank you for being here.
I'm very sorry.
And that means you're early.
Everyone.
That means you're really early. And by the way, you've been put on 4 committees since you were.
Yeah. I even stopped and got gas because I thought I could.
Those that miss a meeting or are late get all the fun duties.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Dr. Brown? Thank you. We're going to continue moving on as we have a lot to go through, and we are going to try and shorten the meeting up a little bit today.
So it sounds like we took a lot of questions on dual enrollment. Are there any questions related to the reports in your packet from Academic Affairs, Student Services and Diversity, or the Budget Office related to the second TMCC priority? Healthy mind, healthy body, healthy environment.
Do you have any highlights?
I can do that.
Just quick.
And would you like, and I will can talk about some highlights. I mean, one of the highlights is the room you're sitting in now. Kind of that recognition that if we focus more as a campus on fitness and including good nutrition, our cafeteria has been changing up this term as well, then that overall good health will help students academically. So that's part of it. Other highlights is that, and I guess I'll start with finance and administration. There's been a lot of work done on the cafe, the sports fitness center, our green initiative, and that is that we had a successful application to Nevada's Green Energy Rider program, and so now we can claim that we're 100% supported by green energy here at TMCC, which is really great. If you look to the Student Services and Diversity report, part of the other thing that we're looking at is just the notion of a global student is one that can be a domestic student or an international student. And so our international program efforts are steadily increasing, which is good. It's, there are always external factors happening around the world that can slow progress down. But so far, we see a modest trend line up. I think what makes me most excited about that, and if you look at the Student Services and Diversity report, there's a short report from CRUSA, a Costa Rican foundation that we've been working with, and CINDE, which is a negotiation that we're currently working on. And CINDE, I think I've spoken here before about CRUSA, but CINDE is one that you may not be aware of, and that is it's kind of the national EDON equivalent in Costa Rica. And they are impressed with our hospitality and tourism program, and they've been talking with us about sending several hundred students our way because it would be cheaper for them to do so and at really great quality compared with the partner they're working with now, a university from Texas, which is actually charging them quite a lot. And so those negotiations are slower than we'd like, but we, Dr. Natalie Brown and Vice President Estella continue to work on those, but it would be very exciting because these would be students studying here at TMCC. We've spoken to a couple of the resorts in town, casinos and resorts, who would love to have some interns from Costa Rica. So we'll see where that goes. But part of that is for when an international student has 5 classes, and let's pretend there's 25 students in each class. So they're interacting with approximately 125 to 100 domestic students. And that's where the real beauty of global international education comes in. That American students make friendships with people from all over the world, and it can really broaden their horizons about what the world is like. So it really is a wonderful partnership between international students and domestic students and the faculty who support them. Anyway, so and part of that is a healthy world, that we're looking at world health by developing an understanding of people from different countries. So that is, I think, a nice highlight to point out. And then in academic affairs, there is quite a lot going on, as you can see. Again, a plan to work on dual enrollment, primarily because of the legitimate concern raised by Anne just a couple of minutes ago that as we grow this program, we're running out of qualified college faculty. We also have new bachelor's degrees that you'll be hearing about, which I think really help with our student engagement. And then, of course, we've got other priorities here and that you can see, and if you have questions, we can bring Marie up. So those are some of the highlights of the reports for this week.
Just a comment. I'm glad to see that we're looking at a bachelor's degree in cyber and physical manufacturing and cybersecurity. Those were 2 things that were in the minutes from our last meeting. That was a concern of showing a little bit of lack of courses where that is an area that's becoming front of mind and one of the biggest expense to any business, whether it is a university, college, or government agency versus a private industry. So I'm very happy to see that and appreciate that. Yes. Petra.
I would just like to say that international students at TMCC are some of the most hardworking and brilliant people I know. So I really do hope that we can have more opportunities to welcome more international students at TMCC.
Thank you, and that's really an important part of cultural diversity, not only here, but in our community. So we'd love to embrace them. And again, you've got a bunch of several business people, and so your community is much wider than the college of which you are attending, because international students provide a lot for business community and their team members as well. So thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Hilgerson or from the different areas of presentation? I want to thank everyone that spent time providing this. I think this is very helpful information. I think as we move forward as an IAC, looking at these initiatives will provide more questions and allow us to focus in on things that are really impacting from a business and community perspective, because that's really where we're charged, is to bring that forward and to help build a strong team to help the community's workforce needs as well as academics. Any other comments or questions? Does the council see any areas that have not been included? I thought Dr. Helgerson provided a very nice presentation. Whoops. On her slide presentation, and the different department heads and deans provided their initiatives and how they were going forward. But what's missing? What is not being represented here from a community perspective that we need to talk about and look at? Nancy?
Nancy McCormick. Just a comment about the importance of incumbent worker training and the importance of business engaging with the community, continued outreach and broader, deeper relationships with business, so that as the automation and other factors impact industry, that workers are not left behind and are provided with opportunities, hopefully sponsored by the businesses that they work for, to retrain themselves, learn new skills, have the ability to still be employed by that same company or another at a higher level and a higher wage than they would have been otherwise.
Would you like to say something, Mr. Reed?
Regarding what's missing from this report?
Or something that you...
Well, I think what I'd like to say, this is Steve Reed, is I see our role, or my role, as a member of the business community, wanting to be in a position to bring together what jobs and what industry needs as it relates to what TMCC is providing in terms of education and training. So anything along those lines where we could bring those together is kind of what I'm looking for.
Anything specific pertaining to your industry that hasn't been addressed in this presentation?
I'm not sure what you're angling for.
I'm not.
Okay.
I don't have any pre-agenda.
Well, I can, again, I'm not exactly sure what we're trying to do here, but I can speak a little bit about, as a member of the logistics community, what I've tried to do is, there's a Council of Logistics Management for TMCC at the Comm Center downtown, or down by the mall, Meadowwood Mall. And I have reached out to that council. I've gone to that council and joined it, expressed that I am on this council, and would like to get any feedback from the attendees or the council members, which are industry people in the logistics industry, so that I can bring back feedback that they give to this and to President Helgersson. I've also, unfortunately, their quarterly meeting happens to be right now as we speak, so I couldn't make today's meeting, but I'm going to continue to reach out to that and play a role on that committee, and hopefully continue to develop relationships with the members who are again, people in business, so that I can get a broader sense outside of my own experience to bring back to this body.
Thank you. In looking at our conversation, and part of the goal is to identify some initiatives that from a business perspective, outside looking in, that we could have some impact on. And as we were talking, I'd just like to throw out some ideas, or I guess not throw them out, but present them. Some of the things that I heard from both sides, both in Nenshi and from the college, is dual enrollment focus is a very important initiative. That how can business leaders impact dual enrollment? And I think that's a discussion that we could have. But one of the things is funding. and that is a 2021 legislative session initiative. And I think that that could be something that this committee could have a lot of impact on from a business organizational perspective, and its impact, and really determine the impact that it has on looking at it from a business perspective. How does it impact our businesses? How does it impact our team members in those businesses and students going forward? So I'd like to present that as a possible initiative for us to look at. Again, the communication in our specific industry specialties is always going to be relevant, and we always want to bring that forward. Weird. That was exciting. Excuse me. Maybe the heat just went on.
Yeah, it sounded like a
brand
furnace.
new heater. Woo, it works. So that would be something. The other would be, looking at workforce development initiatives, especially in the nursing and healthcare and emerging trends. I think that is something that business leaders and can really add some insight, because we are very aware of the emerging trends and how the impact is going to be on team members. In my industry alone, I look at what we're doing today, and I know we're going to be obsolete in less than a year if we're not already obsolete in the way we're managing our business. So those emerging trends, I think, is something, and that initiative, I think, is something that I would like to have us think about going forward. And the other area is, and nursing and healthcare. We have to have a voice in the legislative session regarding nursing and healthcare and how it impacts our insurance, our care for our team, and our care for our families. So I think this is another initiative that we could provide actual numbers and impact from a business perspective throughout this community. The other area that I think that we could be, I'd like for us to think about and have discussion and identify, is that in Dr. Hilgersom's presentation, there were a lot of capital needs. And having worked up at the college, I know they're not really excited in the legislature for maintenance. However, that's so critical, as we've learned from the school district. However, the new initiatives, I think, are, again, areas that we can really take a look at and maybe focus on and come up with some strategies. And I would hope, as you are developing these capital campaign structures, that you will reach out to the business community and to the IAC members, as they are the ones that can help push these initiatives forward from a business perspective. So again, we are here, we are your advisors, and we would be able to give you a lot of guidance as the connectivity and the bridge between the two. So those are some things that I would like to present. We don't have to vote on them today, but I probably will be contacting and just having conversation as we move forward. Is there any comments from the members that, any comments or questions or additions? Dr. Hilgerson?
You know, the only thing I'll add, especially now since we are joined by Regent Carol Del Carlo, is that these legislative priorities go before the Board of Regents in March, and it will be up to the Board of Regents to determine the legislative priorities that will move forward to Carson City. And so as a president, once the regents take that vote, I will be obligated to follow their instructions, and will happily do so. So I think it's important that part of the role of the IAC is a reporting role to the Board of Regents. So I guess, for lack of a better way of putting it, hopefully if there are any questions or advocacy related, especially to the joint DRI capital request for $6 million in planning, I think the protocol, and please correct me if I'm wrong, would be to first reach out to the NC Board of Regents and not reach out to legislators at this point, because we need to respect the role of NC in determining our priorities. So that, yeah.
I think that's great information, and we certainly will. It's unfortunate that this is happening in a month. These initiatives are going before the board. However, that being said, I think that the conversation we're having here today shares with our leadership, Regent Del Carlo, some of the areas that we're looking at and thinking that we could that would have major impact on us, and I think we can provide something before that meeting that would be advantageous and speak to what we feel the community needs are. If that would be helpful.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I would just recommend, I mean, just as we have to prioritize, we looked at 8 institutions, you've got to, I mean, I was really looking through the list. I'm really sorry I missed your presentation, but I would do the same thing. I would really think them through and prioritize, because just because we ask doesn't mean we get.
Oh, absolutely. We know that.
Unfortunately, we have limited resources, and you have to really decide what's a need and what's a want. I mean, it's, you know, that the DRI building's a wonderful concept, but is there things that, like, I think advising at the 350 to 1 is more important for student success. I'm just saying, if you can't have everything, I mean, you're not probably going to get everything. So that would be my recommendation, because we're going to have to prioritize them too.
Absolutely. But I think it's important that we give a community perspective for TMCC, because that's what we're here for, but we understand prioritizing. We have to do it constantly in our business. Yep. It's unfortunate that there's not that money tree in the backyard. Dang it. Any other comments on this? And again, for our members, it would be very helpful if we just really kind of looked at this and gave some feedback, and so that we can make a report back, so that we can have a voice and help Regent DiCarlo determine what our priorities are. Any other comments or questions on that? The next item on the agenda is membership, and we talked last month or last meeting about having the membership really look like the community that we serve, and the current membership roster was provided as part of the agenda package. We're grateful to Collie Hutter, who has served an extended term on the IAC and was instrumental in the development and implementation of the college's IACs. And Collie wrote me a very long and thoughtful email, which I will continue to use. She was a very important and vital person on this committee, and I am sorry that she's not going to continue her term, and she will be missed. She will still be involved as an advisor. Anytime we want to pick up the phone and call her, if she is not away on some exotic vacation, we will be able to have her continuing helping us. Not here today, Deborah Beiersdorf, excuse me, has agreed to serve another term as a representative of the Washoe County School District, and that is very good news. I spoke with Councilmember Esquaga this morning, and she is not going to continue, and she is a very big supporter of the college, and said that she will be available anytime for advice. She feels that it is time to get, if we want to continue with the hospitality, and since we've just started a new program, I think that is a complex, that is an area that we serve. We have programs to do that. That would be an area that we may want to continue. That's up to the committee. But she feels that there needs to be some new ideas, fresh blood, shall we say, and enthusiasm. Again, she will be available and be willing to assist anytime that we need her, and she will answer her phone. So she hasn't gone away, she just isn't going to be attending the meetings. So those are the two folks that will not be joining us and continuing their term. I'd like to open it up for discussion for the AIC members about what industries are not being represented that we feel should be represented to complete the gaps, specific gaps that for our community. And the council may make a motion requesting that the 2 open positions be filled from a specific business or organization. So I'm going to open up to the floor for suggestions, ideas, and discussion.
Nancy McCormick, Edon. So certainly with the continued growth of advanced manufacturing in the region, I would say that that is a perspective that we need to have based on the amount of job creation in that industry. Certainly on the information technology side, whether it is lots of different types of companies in the technology space, whether it's cybersecurity, software development, software as a service, design of software, big data, Internet of Things, that whole, somebody that is representative of that industry, I believe, would be very important as we are consciously working to attract more technology companies to the region, to attract companies with higher wage jobs, and it's all about data. So those are 2 of my recommendations.
Thank you. The floor is still open for ideas and comments.
This is Steve Reed, and I might end up deferring to Nancy here, but one thing I think about when we talk about legislative initiatives and things like that, and Edon does a great job, and perhaps, and having Nancy is really good. I was thinking possibly a member of the Chamber of Commerce might be someone to consider, because they do a good job as a general representative of the business community in supporting legislative initiatives.
I would absolutely agree. Edon serves primary companies, those that generate more of their revenues from outside the state than from within the state. And in our market service area, we believe there's about 750 of those. So that's really our focus area. The Chamber, on the other hand, is serving all of the rest. And so having representation for all that they cover as far as professional services and construction, healthcare, everything that is part of their oversight, absolutely concur on that.
I'd like to just comment on that as well. The Chamber also does a lot of the legislative lifting, so it would bring a business perspective on bills that would impact the business community and that could trickle down to impact the college funding, many different aspects, courses. So I think that the Chamber would bring a very large focus of what is occurring in our business environment, of which, again, is a mirror of who we're servicing. So great idea. Any other comments? Dr. Hilgerson can't speak today.
So I totally agree with the recommendations that Nancy has made, and also the inclusion of the Chamber. We do have a great Chamber representative now on our foundation board, which is exciting, but maybe there's someone else from the Chamber who could also assist with this body as well. The other one that I would add is the hospitality and tourism industry. I mean, we really are trying to build and grow that program. We will miss Michonne, even though she spent many years on this body and helping. So I think we do need to think about that industry as well and continue that.
John Madole, I've got a couple of thoughts. One, perhaps my information is incorrect, but it's my understanding that the Chamber is pretty much apolitical these days. If you're looking for help at the legislature, I think you may be going to the wrong place. The other thing I would say about the gaming and hospitality is, I think when we think of hospitality and gaming, we think of big hotels. But there's a lot of smaller businesses, restaurants, motels. These are people are working their hearts out, and I don't think they're necessarily reflected in the larger people. You might just think, I know they're all so busy and they probably don't have time to come to meetings, but it could be that there's somebody out there that would represent that segment of the industry a little bit better. And I agree that you want to get some people that help you with the legislature. And President Hilgerson, actually, I was just going to say the same thing. I thought if you start going out, I think I almost got in some trouble here. Regent Del Carlo will recall this, that everyone was told to march to the same drum so that you don't have somebody down at the legislature trying to carve out a piece of funding for something that has not been approved by the Board of Regents. So I know that's a little ticklish.
Thank you for that. I think the chamber, I apologize if I was saying that they would be a great legislative. I think what I'm saying is that the body encompasses most of the business community, and they do have a pulse of issues, not to have their stance on the issues, but the idea of they have a representative that is very focused on all the bills that are coming up, and from the perspective of how it could impact. But mostly they talk about workforce development. They talk about in the meetings technology. I mean, they bring a lot. So I think it would help if we were able to get one person that had a real broad scope of what is also represented, but not on a political perspective.
Now, John Madold again, I didn't mean it as a criticism.
Oh, no, I take that's fine.
I thought that if you were looking for some legislative support, that was probably not where I would suggest you go.
Absolutely, and I didn't take it as a criticism as all. I thought it was a very good comment. I just wanted to make sure that I restated it properly. And I agree with the hospitality and tourism. You know, hospitality and tourism is really changing in this community. You know, the idea that Harrah's is no longer Harrah's is a big statement of what hospitality and what the flavor and the complexion of this community is going to look like. So it is a much broader perspective than what it used to be. And so, and I think there are a lot of really innovative folks in that area, and not just from a one large group of it. Any other ideas, comments? Yes. Hey.
Chair North, I'm not a member of this group, so I'm happy to just submit my thoughts otherwise, unless you'd like for me to just go ahead and now.
Go ahead and say
great.
what you need to say.
I just want to respect the meeting here.
You're a member.
You know, this one's a little trickier because they're housed by the university, but the Nevada Industry Excellence Organization has really, it sort of fits the advanced manufacturing component, the IT component, the business. They're doing a lot of work in convening a lot of groups. Here locally, they've started putting together a monthly consortium meeting with about 100 advanced manufacturers or local manufacturing organizations in the tech industry as well. So there's there's 2 slots and a lot of great ideas already, but just wanted to throw that out there for consideration as well.
Thank you very much. Regent Del Carlo, do you have any thoughts?
No, I think you're on the right track. I mean, you're right. Hospitality is really changing. I can't believe Harrah's is closing.
I know.
My favorite steakhouse. Ugh. But, I think the cybersecurity is really a really important one, because we have a huge gap in the state. We have over 200,000 job openings right now.
Yeah.
And we just don't have enough programs or people going that way. So it'd be great to get someone from that. And I hadn't even heard of what Caleb's talking about. I don't even know about that. So afterwards, maybe you can enlighten me on that one. I mean, I'm glad to see so many different groups are coming together and talking. I think that's really important, so we know the needs. But that's it. I'm done.
Thank you. I'm going to go out on a limb, and you're probably going to say, stop, and that's okay. But so we can are there any other suggestions from any members before we move forward? If you have them, please don't hesitate to contact me or President Hilgerson. because this is really important. I think how we move forward is what we're going to need to bring onto the board. So it's very important that we really give this a lot of thought. And this is where I'm going out to make sure we can do this. Would it be within our realm to have a nominating committee that would bring forward actual names and vet these some of these industries and then go through the actual process?
Zalal Bogala, for the record, are you contemplating a creation of a new committee, a new subcommittee of the IAC?
I think what we're looking at is a small group of the IAC members to have one meeting to go over nominations, names, and make suggestions, and then Chair North and I will try to solicit involvement from the people on that list. So it could be one meeting.
And the people on that list would be comprised of people that are already on the IAC?
How I would envision it is that the task force would be comprised of IAC members. We would meet for an hour or two at the most, maybe even get your free lunch in there, and we would discuss possible nominations in our community that fit the industry types. And then Chair North and I would go solicit their engagement and hope they say yes. And we do have more than 2 spots. So I can't remember offhand exactly how many, but I think we have more than 2. Is that correct, Lisa? Yeah. 4, up to 4.
Seems fine to me. I mean, this item discusses membership of the TMCC IAC, right? And so, to the extent that the subcommittee is furthering that, I think we're okay in terms of open meeting law purposes.
Good. Thank you.
May I ask just another question in
course.
relationship to that? We have, we have 2 really good folks that have just resigned from the committee but are open and they are in 2 of these industries. So would it be acceptable to just also possibly reach out to former IAC members for their input and recommendations since they are familiar with the industry in some of the areas? Would that be all right?
I see no problem with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lisa, I think.
Sorry,
Chair, I should-
just to confirm that subcommittee would also be subject to open meeting law, though. So we'd be required to notice the meeting, record it, and have minutes and all that kind of stuff. Is that correct?
The way I was envisioning this, that was why I was asking those questions. Is it comprised of current IAC members? Right, it's not a new committee. It's just simply a
subcommittee.
It's a
meeting
Subset.
It's a subset of already existing members, and so it's not the creation of a new subcommittee. Is how I was envisioning it.
Okay.
And I think you're right. I don't think it would be called a subcommittee. I think it would be one meeting.
Yeah.
So, I don't.
And how many people on the meeting on the subset?
You need to ask.
How many people would like to join this committee?
This meeting.
This meeting. Yes.
I'm happy to.
Okay. 4 with President Hilgersum engaged. So it'd be 5 total.
Just thinking here. It's probably safe to treat it as an IAC meeting itself because it's comprised of IAC members. And so, to be safe, I mean, I guess it has the same function as a subcommittee would. I was just trying to feel out if this was an IAC membership only, right?
Not necessarily. Oh, who has? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Marisa Brown for the record with NHA. I'm just wondering if maybe it wouldn't be an easier process if we were just to submit some names to you guys, and then you could follow up and see if they were interested.
Would that work?
Yes, that would be much easier.
Okay, we're going to change the process. All those that have ideas and thoughts on people that could fill some of the slots that we have discussed, if they could send their names to Dr. Hilgersum, that would be great, and then we will report back.
And can I have one comment on that?
You certainly may.
So the other concern that I've had about the composition of this committee is that the committee represent the diversity of the Reno and Sparks area. So as you submit names, please be thinking about Latino Latinas who we are an official Hispanic serving institution. We're now, I think, over almost 32% serving Latino Latina students. So it'd be really helpful if we could identify some individuals who are from that background. Thank you.
Yes,
Madam Chair, John Thurman for the record. I've been here too long. I've forgotten how we get on the committee. Are we appointed by the Chancellor? I mean, how is it? That's technical. Okay.
Yes, technically.
All right, thank you.
Does Regent Del Carlo, how does that process work? Do you submit? Does it go actually through you?
It goes, excuse me, Carol Del Carlo for the record. It goes to Nate McKinnon, who's the chair, he's the Vice Chancellor of the community colleges.
Okay.
I don't believe the Chancellor is involved.
Lisa, for the record.
She probably knows better than me.
So when we have nominations, the president will write a letter to Vice Chancellor McKinnon, who then forwards it to the Board of Regents chair, who actually approves it, and then the chancellor will appoint the person to their term.
Thank you.
Now we know.
Got it. Any other comments, suggestions? Okay. And I think it's really important to remember to keep the diversity, and it's of, all aspects of diversity, because it's critical for the diversity of thought that's bringing, a whole new way of Reno is and Washoe County in our area are looking at the future. So we need that. Thank you. Dr. Hilgerson, you are up again on the bachelor's degree program. Quick.
Yes, so I wanted to just give you an update of our bachelor's degrees, and I would also like to share that I'm looking at item 9, and this is a document prepared by Vice President and Dr. Marie Mergelot, and she is here, so I'm happy if there's anything, Marie, that you would like to add, please feel free to jump on up there, because we are making really great progress on all of our Bachelor of Applied Science degrees and also our Bachelor of Science in Dental Hygiene. And one of the things that's very interesting about the Bachelor of Science in Dental Hygiene is one of the reasons the faculty felt pretty strongly about moving that forward is the so-called 2-year degree in dental hygiene was only 11 credits different from the Bachelor of Science in Dental Hygiene. So we have now corrected that, and it's really very exciting to offer a professional program like that in a beautiful, newly renovated space, thanks to the Pennington Foundation. And so what you can see are the year 1 projected enrollment numbers compared with the year 1 actuals, and then the year 3 projected and the year 3 actuals. And so, and depending on when they began, we might not have numbers yet, because these are all rolling out fairly recently in the grand scheme of higher education. So yes, go ahead, Marie.
Marie Mergelot for the record. I just want to make one point on the year 1 numbers. I've always felt it's a little bit silly for us to have to project and report.
Could you speak more into the mic? Thank you.
Thank you.
Or shout.
Okay.
Shout, either way.
I just want to make a point on the year 1 numbers. I've always felt that it's kind of silly that we project and report the year 1 numbers, because by the time we get approval, now the Northwest Commission, in order to approve it, has to get the Board of Regents minutes. So it's about 6 months to get the approved minutes. So a lot of times we're offering this 2 to 3 weeks after we've gotten our approval from Northwest or from financial aid. So year 1, we're not allowed to market it until we get that approval from Northwest. So the year 1 numbers are always a little bit skewed to the load side. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, and so we always call it a soft launch because we know that between the Northwest accreditors and the Department of Federal Financial Aid, making sure that we're registered with them, it does eat up some time. So anyway, but thanks for that clarification, Marie. The one, you might want to stay in close proximity. Is there questions from anyone else before I move to the...
Are there any questions regarding this particular topic? Yes. Petra.
Would it be true that the more bachelor's degrees that TMCC has, the more prices will increase per credit for students, or will that not be affected?
So I think that's a good question, and I'll try to do my best to answer it. The bachelor degree tuition for upper division does vary. I think I have that correctly. I'm trying to remember now if it's the true for the lower division as well, but maybe Marie knows that off the top of her head.
It's just the 300 and 400 level
Yeah,
classes
okay.
have the higher.
So the 300 and 400 level classes have a higher tuition fee attached to them. But the other thing I want to add to that is I think at this point in time, the interest of TMCC is more about applied bachelor's degrees. I don't think there is an appetite, and please faculty correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's an appetite to duplicate what UNR is currently doing unless it relates to a career technical program or a professional program such as nursing, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So, for example, we would never want to offer a Bachelor of Science degree in biology. We would much prefer to prepare students so that when they go to the university, and typically the University of Nevada, Reno, they will have seamless transfer, they won't lose any credits, and they will get a wonderful experience getting that bachelor's degree. So the first thing I want to say, President Alexandra, is that we are very careful in when we decide to request a bachelor's degree. And if you notice, most of our bachelor's degrees are applied science bachelor's degrees. And the only exception so far really has been the Bachelor of Science in Dental Hygiene, because we were only 11 credits away from that. And it's something that the university doesn't offer. So that made total sense. We are having a bit of a problem with our request or with our goal on the Bachelor of Science of Nursing. So this is a degree that will ideally come before the Regents spring of this year. And I just want to express for this group why our nursing faculty feel strongly that we offer the degree. Currently, we offer what's called an RN or ADN. What ADN stands for Associate Degree in Nursing. And when you complete the requirements for the associate degree in nursing, then you're allowed to sit for your RN licensure exam. And our students have an excellent pass rate. And so ideally when they're done, they've got their RN, their ADN, and a job. And the reality is they are getting jobs before they even have taken their licensure, jobs that are contingent on passing the RN licensure exam. So it's wonderful. We have terrific partnerships with the hospitals in the area who have expressed to us that there is a dire shortage of RN, ADN, or bedside care nurses. At this point in time in Reno Sparks, a Bachelor of Science of Nursing degree is a nice to have, but the demand is actually at the RN, ADN. Am I right so far, Marissa?
You're correct.
Yeah, okay. The problem we have is that the cost of educating an RN is not fully covered by the state, nor is it fully covered by tuition, even when we add the two together. So in effect, many of our other programs, including programs in the liberal arts, large class size programs, 35 students in them, right, are in effect subsidizing nursing and other health career programs, to be honest, all right? And that's not a bad thing necessarily. It really isn't. And for a president, it's a careful balance, right? Try to make it all balance out. What has happened is we can no longer keep that balance if at the same time we are expected to add new spots. And we need more spots at the RN, ADN level. So about a year ago, maybe more now, maybe close to 2, our nursing department was very excited when the College of Southern Nevada received the right to, in addition to offering the RN ADN, would also be allowed to offer an RN to BSN. Because, number one, we have many of our nursing faculty have their doctorates and they're perfectly qualified to teach. And they recognize that many of our former TMCC graduates were either not going to get a BSN at all, or they were going out of state. Some of them go to UNR, but not very many. So we have tallied exactly where they go, and we know that they're either not getting it at all or they're going out of state, and they're enrolling in online programs. So they have been working for the last year to develop curriculum and come up with the plan so that they would market to former TMCC graduates and existing TMCC nursing students a BSN. So they would reach out and say, come join a cohort program of about 60 students a year, and we'll mentor you like we did when you were here the first time. You can drop in and see us in our offices out at Redfield. You can use our labs. We're going to help you, even though it's an online program, and you can keep your jobs. You don't have to quit your jobs, right? They also would like to have our current RN ADN students to be able to begin to enroll in 300, 400 level classes while they're still completing their ADN, their 2-year degree or associate degree in nursing program. So that's what they're requesting. We think that this will help expand capacity because the revenue generated from this online cohort of 60 will cover about 32 new spots. We would like to get to 64 new spots, and so we will be seeking support from our community or our state. Again, that's the legislative request to increase the distribution for health careers funding, so to make up the gap. But we know that this is one of the most dire industry needs that faces us now, and we're trying to think outside the box so we can meet the needs of hospitals in our community. So hopefully our request will pass and we'll be able to offer, in addition to our ADN, our Bachelor of Science degree in nursing. And every penny we generate from that, we're going to put right back into the ADN RN and expand capacity at that level as well. The nice thing is it upskills our nurses. Having spent time on the East Coast, there were hospitals that said, we're not going to hire any nurse until they have a BSN because, we want to be what's called a magnet hospital. And so, maybe you can speak to that a little bit. So,
Marisa Brown for the record. I can so very much appreciate what you're saying. I don't know if you are aware, but there's a new freestanding hospital that'll be opening in the community, and our community is growing. And we struggle right now with nurses. So I know that a lot of hospitals have travelers that come in. They're not vested in our community. And like you mentioned, a lot of the hospitals want to hire BSNs, but they're not there. So I can very much appreciate that, and I'm hoping that that'll work out. I know that there is a new private school. I think Unitech opened up here, and of course the cost of that is just exorbitant. I mean, those private schools are very, very expensive. Yeah. So I think this is a great opportunity to grow our nurses, and I hope it works out.
Yeah, thank you.
Just a comment in another meeting, and I don't know, Nancy, if you want to jump in on this, but discussion about healthcare nurses, doctors that are in our area and the lack thereof, and the fact that hospitals are going out of area, going to Oregon, going to other out of area schools to recruit and bring in nurses to fill our hospitals. When we have students here that want to get this degree and they're going out of state, paying an exorbitant amount of money and or going to private schools. And I was a former commissioner and chair of post-secondary education, and we saw a lot of private schools coming in for licensing. And I really, it's a huge concern because it drives up the expense, it drives up the cost to our students, and are they really getting the best education? I don't believe so. That's a biased opinion. Don't put that in the record. But I think that this is a critical, when you talk about impacting business, quality of life, and environment in our students, this is a critical aspect and an area that we need our colleges and our universities to provide this opportunity for our students and not have the exorbitant student loans that they're getting. I mean, they are getting these loans to pay for these high costs. Dr. Loxton.
Yes, Dr. Loxton for the record. What are the obstacles to this BSN program? Is there something that we can do as an IAC to help facilitate?
I'm trying to answer this very carefully. I hope there will be no obstacles. I think there is concern that because the universities at NC have developed online RN to BSN programs, that this program would represent competition. However, I need to state that our program would be very different. The RN BSN online programs, that as far as my understanding, and I'm not the expert on other programs, but that they are more developed to be open access to as many students want to sign up. So it's a different model, and it can work very well for people who have been an RN for a long time and they don't need any hand-holding, not like what we intend to provide. Our model is more like what GBC is doing and what CSN is doing. So it's a cohort model. We don't want to take more than 60 in a year, and we are focusing our energies on recruiting former TMCC graduates who we know are either not getting a BSN at all or they're going to other states, and a few of them stay in Nevada, but really very few. We've counted every single one of them. And current TMCC students. So ours is a cohort model where we say, even though this is an online program, we have a physical location. This is a comfortable place for you because you know the faculty, usually, and we want to help you succeed. So, and the goal for us, so that's the first goal, is that we're reaching out to former and current graduates in a controlled cohort model. My goal as the president is to take those revenues that generates and use those dollars to subsidize additional spots at the RN level as well, because that's where the immediate demand is now. And when I say immediate, I feel the pain of the hospitals. If this is approved in June, we're not going to see the revenue from that for probably 3 years. So it's still a heavy lift for TMCC. But thank you for asking.
Any other questions, comments? Nancy, do you have any?
I'll just add to what you were saying about the need was really described as it couldn't be more urgent, catastrophic consequences by the CEO of Renown in the meeting. And I was surprised when we talk about traveling nurses, the percentages of the nursing staff at the Renown system is just over something like 65-75%. And so these folks are coming to the community, but and really helping us meet the need, but they're not intending to stay in the community. So while we really appreciate them being here, it's not the same as growing our own source of these over time with people that are going to stay and contribute overall to the health of our community and the diversity of our community. So absolutely, anyone that you talk to in healthcare just really is at a loss to know exactly how to solve this problem.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm assuming there's no more questions about nursing, but I would love it if Julie Muley would share a little bit about the Bachelor of Applied Science Career Tech Ed. She worked so hard on it. It's an amazing option. I don't know if you want to very quickly just share what it will look like and what it's for.
Julie Muley, for the record. The Bachelor of Applied Science in Career and Technical Ed is a completion degree for any person, any graduate of a community college with any kind of associate degree. It's fully online. The students would go in as juniors, 2 years for completion, and the emphasis is on training and leadership. So if you're someone who's looking for professional development and you're going to be training coworkers, it's a great model. If you wake up one day and your company says everyone needs a bachelor degree, it's a good model. So I think it's really flexible and it works for a lot of people. Whether we have a new school where Hug High currently is, we're going to have career and technical ed there. Where are we going to get the teachers? So this is a model that can actually educate CTE instructors who are experts in their discipline and in their field, but maybe they don't know how to write curriculum, or they don't know how to lead someone or supervise people, or they don't know facility design, OSHA requirements, safety requirements. So this is a very flexible degree for a lot of different folks, and I'm really excited.
Thank you, and thank you for all the work that you have done on that. That is going to be a challenge filling that school because it is totally different, a whole different model, but a great model. And again, will really help workforce development and our population here to succeed. Yes, Kate.
So the CTE BAS that Ms. Muley was just discussing, is this a degree where if you already have a bachelor's degree, you could pursue it online in a shorter period of time than, say, 4 years?
It's currently a 2-year model. No matter what your degree is in, it's a 2-year model for the content.
Thank you.
And we would be the only school in the state that has this degree. And before now, we were the only state in the union without this degree.
Any other questions or comments? There being none, we'll move on to the next item. Is that right? New business. Is there any new business or someone that would like to have an item for future agenda to be put on the future agenda for our next meeting?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Nancy McCormick. One thing that I am curious about and that might be beneficial to others on this council would be the Office of Workforce Innovation, who there are no representatives that I'm aware of in the North. They are the center for a lot of different activities, including the apprenticeship program and others, and it might be worthwhile for those on this council to better understand the office's role relative to workforce development, helping seekers, helping employers, and all that. So just a consideration.
Thank you, Nancy. Great comment and great idea. Anyone else have any new business or items to be considered for future agenda items? I would like to, oh, I'm sorry. Speak up.
I was just thinking, since we kind of did talk a lot about OER, if that could be something that could be an agenda item, so that way we could go into full-on discussion and go off on each other's ideas, perhaps.
Okay. We've got it down. Anyone else? Again, I would like to see membership. We'll bring that back. And initiatives.
We have to flip it over.
I've got it on there. I've got it flipped.
Oh, good.
Okay. And those would be items. And if you have other items that you would like to see on the agenda, again, you can certainly contact us. And I'm flipping this over. Yay! Yay! All right. Real quickly, I'd like to just go around it. It's been kind of a thing that we do here, and that's the takeaways. And I think it's important that we hear what everyone is thinking and what is important to them. So I would like to start with Julia and just give me a quick, brief takeaway that you got information from this setting today.
I would like to thank everyone for being so considerate about really having a diversified committee here, and especially representation from the Hispanic community. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Julia took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say I appreciate, Dr. Hogerson, your comments about adding, thinking about diversity within this committee, and also thinking about the membership and, where it is that who could sort of best represent the community to help with the college and serve in that advisory role. I do have one question. We didn't revisit it regarding last meeting. We discussed changing the charges. There was a big conversation about the charges of the committee and the language in the procedures and guidelines manual about institutional advisory councils, and I don't even know where, there was no follow-up to that. Were there any changes or recommendations off of that?
We provided that information to the Vice Chancellor.
Okay.
And he will then include it, change it, or put it forward again for changes to be approved. That was our charge. He asked us to review it, to give recommendations, and that's what we did. And we have not received anything back at this time, unless Assistant Vice Chancellor Cage could comment on that.
Not at this time.
Okay. We can follow up on it, though. We certainly will. We'll put it on the agenda item.
Okay.
Thank you. John?
For the record, John Thurman, I'm not sure they're necessarily takeaways, and but maybe more than that, just observations. And I certainly appreciate and understand that the institution of TMCC is a business, and at the end of the day, they must drop, black ink to the bottom of the page, or something has to go away. And I love the conversations. I love the initiatives. And this is something I struggle with in workforce development in general, is that many of the discussions, even though they have included the students, it's really the goal, in my opinion, that we are preparing people to enter the workforce. Now, that could be the workforce of education, that could be the workforce of healthcare, it could be whatever. And there's a tremendous amount of emphasis placed on the completion of the associate degree or four-year degree or even high school diplomas, which in some cases are absolutely necessary for entering employment. But the fact that people do enter employment and are productive in the workforce and have a self-sustaining wage, I think gets lost in all of the conversation many times. So the measure of success isn't always necessarily the attainment of the degree, but maybe the contribution to this economy in general.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Marisa Brown for the record. I am very excited about the bachelor's program in nursing, and I want to just mention about cultural diversity and the bullying piece. We had legislation that passed this last session that now requires hospitals to train to cultural diversity and anti-discrimination. We just went through a public workshop for regulations on that, and then also workplace violence. That's huge with our hospitals. So we also have training affiliated with that, new regs that OSHA will be coming out for that. So I'm in the process of helping hospitals work through that. So I want to say I commend you for working to that standard at the college.
And a good resource.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Joe Nannini for the record. I would just like to congratulate President Patry on having the opportunity to present at a conference. I think that is such a cool thing and such a cool opportunity. And I think that the open educational resources concept in general is absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Nancy McCormick for the record. I'll be going back and thinking about prospective members to consider for the advisory council. The one other point that I didn't comment on at the time that I wanted to also reinforce was in one of the presentations the last item was about retention of TMCC teachers and continuing education. And I just wanted to reinforce, as many know, the reasons that people leave are oftentimes because they are bored or unhappy with the lack of opportunity, the ability to take on more responsibility and different roles. And so the training and investment in the staff and leadership of TMCC is critically important, especially in this extremely competitive environment where commercial enterprise, private sector enterprise is actively recruiting your people.
Steve Reed for the record. I appreciate getting to know the ongoing strategic initiatives. And one thing I thought about after the fact, as it relates to engaging students through healthy mind, healthy body, healthy environment, is to share, if you aren't aware of, Washoe Public Health has a program called 5210 Healthy Washoe, and it's a program being adopted by most, if not all, of the Washoe County agencies, renowned, and there's a few companies who are pilot programs, and my company is one of them. And what it means is 5 or more fruits and vegetables, 2 hours or less of recreational screen time, 1 hour or more of physical activity, and 0 sugary drinks and more water. And I thought that might be something for consideration into your healthy bodies, healthy minds, healthy environment.
That's great.
Yeah, I'd not heard of that, so thank you. That's great.
That's great to put out to businesses for healthy communities.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add?
Thanks for having me
We're glad you're here.
and allowing me to fill John Albrecht's large shoes. Since I'm not a policymaker, I'll just be quiet.
Thank you for being here and for your assistance. John.
John Meadows for the record. I did kind of check with some of the people in the construction, and there's a lot of things going on that you're already doing that are helping the construction industry, and I know they're grateful for that. There's a lot more to be done, but I think based on the fact that resources are scarce, I think perhaps there are other places that need the additional resources right now, and we'll kind of continue. But so some of the things that are being done are just fantastic, and they're doing a great job, so thank you.
Thank you. Mindy.
Mindy Lockshin for the record. I was very interested in the strategic initiatives and obviously interested in the dual enrollment and equally interested in the advising needs. I think as a Nevada Promise mentor, interested in all the other opportunities available to students, I think it would, I was interested in hearing some more of the statistics of what's current and what's needed in terms of advising and otherwise, and I think that would make a much stronger argument. I was a little disappointed I didn't have numbers to any of that, and I thought that would make it much stronger in terms of numbers in the past, going forward, and the costs associated.
And, maybe we can formulate that in an agenda item when we look at an agenda, because I think Dr. Brown is going to be presenting some more information
at the next meeting. Exactly.
Say something?
Of course you may.
Mindy, I had the same reaction. This was the first meeting that we tried this new format, but it dawned on me that I will ask the VPs to include more numbers, and we'll try to do a better job of predicting some of the questions that will be asked, and maybe even provide some kind of a template. So we'll try to correct that by the next meeting, because that struck me too today. Thank you.
And if we could please send in some of the questions ahead of time, if you review your materials and you do have questions, it's very helpful when you're on the other side of that podium. If you have an idea of what the questions could be, you can be better prepared. And so we're getting the material ahead of time. we're having the opportunity. So if your questions are coming forward, please send them forward ahead of time so that our team can be prepared to give you the ultimate answers that you need and the data that you need. Because sometimes it's difficult to get up there and just spout, give data. Thank you. Very good. Regent Del Carlo.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not on the ARSA committee. That's where the BSN and the BASCTE is going to be going. At the same time that meets, I'm on business, finance, and facilities. But I can say that it's really helpful when you do public comment. The regions really listen. At least I know I do. There's 13 of us, but I think public comment is a really important component of what we do. And so for these two programs, my recommendation would be to make sure you have some really great people come up and talk about what, I wrote it down, couldn't be more urgent. I think you had said that, Nancy. It's catastrophic, the shortage here. And they have to understand that, because I appreciate President Hilgerson being very diplomatic. And sometimes there's just stuff within the system. But we have to look outside that, and it's what the community needs. And I truly know it needs both of those. So normally it goes to the subcommittee. It's like a subcommittee, the ARSA, that's the Academic Research Student Affairs Committee. And then the report then goes to the full board. So it's key to have it passed there, because then it goes to us, and we basically, I've never seen in my going on 4 years that we've ever not approved a report at a lower level. One time I've seen an item come to the full board, but that's all. So,
Thank you. Assistant Vice Chair.
Caleb Cage for the record, just two brief items. One on the RN to BSN conversation that President Hilgerson presented. This is the first time I've heard the argument in its entirety, and I know it was a truncated version of it. It's compelling in its own right, but it also fits in with some other initiatives that we have underway right now, addressing educator workforce development, nursing and healthcare workforce development as well, as a part of that. And it's interesting to see where there may be some synergies, as you might say, to build on some of those opportunities. The second, I'm just very excited about the CTE. I know Barbara Walden has talked about the BAS and the CTE program, and I think that's a great new opportunity for the state. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
Passing.
Nothing, Daniel?
Passing's an option.
Nothing.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
President Petrie.
Is it on? Okay.
Yep, there you go.
I'm glad to be here today to represent students as their voice, and thank you for answering my questions regarding the possible increases in cost per credit here at TMCC for students. The reason why I asked those questions was because at UNR I have a marketing class, and the teacher asked 40-something students if they knew what differential fees were, and I was the only person who did. And this is something that will soon affect them with the incoming business building. It will be an $80 extra fee per credit, which will be a 43% increase, and that could make UNR the most expensive business school. And it is a very, very big issue, and students don't know about it. And they say it is for students, but they don't know about it. And so that's why here at TMCC, I believe it is very important that I understand, so that other students can understand these fees and, if it will affect them. So thank you.
Thank you. Julie.
Julie Muley. I'm really interested in the increased weight for health professions, because it does cost a lot of money to run those programs, and we have counselors and advisors. They go hand in hand. It's a lot of advising involved in those programs. So I'm hoping this will go forward, because it'll better reflect what's really happening.
Thank you. Dr. Hilgerson, do you have any comments?
Oh, I was just saying yes. Yes. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No, thank you. I was looking at Carol. I think.
Doctor.
Yeah.
Thank you. Regent Carol Del Carl for the record. I just want to clarify to the president of TMCC students that at the last meeting we had those differential fees, and you're right, a lot of people don't even know about differential fees, and that was actually voted down at the meeting, and the classes were for upper class, but I think that probably will come back at a later time. So yeah, differential fees, just for anybody that doesn't know what they are, you can get your tuition, and then there's a whole huge long chart for all the institutions for added cost, and mostly it's labs and the law school, the medical school, but different colleges have different fees, so it does change the tuition. But my understanding, and maybe I don't know if you know this, because I asked, because we always say that we're below the WSHE average, the Western states average. Does that also include differential fees? I'm told yes, but I'd like some. I'll get some clarification for the group, because I have asked that a white paper be done to really see if the differential fees included in our tuition, we can still make those statements. Yeah, it needs to be looked at.
Thank you, Regent Del Carlo. Yes.
Zalam Bogala for the record. I just wanted to add that it's my understanding that the RN to BSN program, a presentation will be occurring in the Health Sciences System Committee as well. I'm not sure if it's going to occur at ARSA too.
Well, I was just going by the what it said here at ARSA. We haven't gotten our board pack yet, so I don't know. I'm not on that committee either, though.
Right, and I think it will be happening in the Health Sciences System Committee, which are right, and it'll be just an agenda item for information only.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You had something else, President? Yes.
I would just like to respond real quick to Regent Del Carlo. So it was voted down, so you are correct about that. However, the dean of the College of Business still plans on going through these things, and so it will still be upcoming, and it still will affect students.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say to President Alexandra that I'm not sure I answered your question correctly about our upper division fees, but so I vaguely recall that we charge for 300 and 400 level about $168. I think I've got, Lisa's going yes, so yay, good memory, Karen. And then if there's a fee on top of that, it would be unique to the program, and it typically would be related to consumables, things that, like lab equipment needed for dental care or whatever. And so, but if we haven't answered your question more fully, let me know, and we'll try to make sure that we send you a breakdown. But for the most part, upper division here at TMCC is about $168 a credit, and that's just for the tuition. So, but thank you for bringing it up. Yeah.
Thank you. Any more comments or questions? There being done, we're going to...
I have a statement.
Dr. Hilgerson has a statement.
Well, I just couldn't come up with one takeaway, but I got a lot of takeaways. I think this is a really great group, and you have some wonderful suggestions and ideas, and I'm really looking forward to the names that we come up with and to even making this group even more bigger and better and all of that. But thank you so much for your input today. It was really, really helpful, and I appreciate you all.
Thank you. There being no further comments or questions, we're going to move on to public comment. Public comment will be taken during this agenda item. No actions be taken on a matter raised upon this item until the matter is included on an agenda as an item of which action may be taken. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes per person. Persons making comment will be asked to begin by stating their name and for the record and to spell their last name. Council Chair may elect to allow additional public comment on a special agenda item when that agenda item is being considered. Is there any public comment? If so, please come forward. There being none, we will move forward to the adjournment. And I would like to just say thank you for everyone for attending today. We have some initiatives to think about and to prioritize. I'm looking forward to getting names and recommendations for new membership and moving forward on some of the strategic initiatives on how we can be impactful to the college, to the regents, and also to our community. So thank you so much for being here, and have a great couple months. We're adjourned. Or do we need a motion to adjourn?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Take some bagels with you on your way out.